Welcome back to the Luz and Dolly Show. I'm Luz.
And I am Dolly.
And we have Steen Metz here with us, a beautiful survivor, an amazing man, powerful and beautiful in a very special way, continuing to share his story in many places. Where else do you speak to share the story?
I'm very fortunate. When it gets cold in the Chicago area, I go down to Florida, and I'm on the Speakers Bureau at the Holocaust Museum in Naples, so I talk down there.
How precious.
And I'm also on the Speakers Bureau in Skokie, Illinois, and I talk there.
Wonderful.
And then I go out to as many schools as I possibly can to spread the word.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for
And
being
then, of course,
here.
being on YouTube today.
Yes, the Luz and Dolly Show.
Yes, at the Luz and Dolly Show. One of the things that we hadn't asked you was, how old were your parents when they were taken?
My father was 39, and my mother was 37.
39 and 37. And other than your parents, because you did not have any siblings, but other than your parents, did you have aunts and uncles, other family members who were also taken?
Most of my family managed to escape to Sweden. My entire family, except my own, they lived in Copenhagen. And that's where my mother and father, they were from Copenhagen. They managed to escape to Sweden. One family, my father's brother, and the wife and the little child, they were on their way to Sweden, but they were arrested by the Nazis, and they ended up in Theresienstadt as well. And my father's mother was with them on the way to Sweden, and she ended up in Theresienstadt also.
Wow.
Okay.
But about 12 to 14 people of my family, they managed to escape to Sweden.
Okay. We had mentioned that you were captured October 2nd of 1943, and you were liberated April 15, 1945. Can you give us a little flavor of how that was for you? Where were you? What were you told? Where were you taken? Any and all of that?
We spent 18 months in camp in total. And suddenly one day, I think it was April the 13th or 14th, a chief rabbi told us that in a couple of days we would be liberated by the white buses and were coming from Sweden. And I guess you should believe what the rabbi tells you. But none of us believed it until we saw the buses,
Right.
because we've been there for such a long time. And the buses arrived, and we got a warm welcome, and we chocolate for the children, and tobacco for the adults, and it was a very, very happy moment.
From that moment when you were liberated, were you then taken to a hospital for, just to make sure that you were checked and your family, well, your mom, because unfortunately you lost your dad, but, what was the process?
I'm glad you asked that question. We left Theresienstadt, went up through Germany. We had to stop a couple of times because of bombardment, and I still remember a couple of hours sitting in the forest. Bombardment was over, and we went through Germany again. We arrived in Denmark, got a warm, warm welcome from the Danish people. And then we couldn't stay in Denmark because the war was still going on. So we went over to Sweden. Sweden was a neutral country the entire time. And as soon as we arrived, we had to go to a quarantine because they wanted to make sure that we didn't bring any illnesses like typhus into the country. So we spent about a week in quarantine, and then we reconnected with my family. And I still remember that my mother said she was standing around where we are and the wall there, and I don't know how far the wall is away, but say 20 feet maybe, or 25 feet. And she wanted to run over and embrace her mother, who she hadn't seen for so long. And she couldn't do it. She was too weak to do it. And I always remember that time because...
So your mother's mother survived?
Yes, she did.
Wow.
She went to Sweden with her sister. And they both lived in Copenhagen.
Wow.
Just to envision how difficult it was for one being there for 18 months yet being released and not having the energy to move and hug those loved ones, yet alone find them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I can't even fathom.
And I think that
So-
picture says it all. It was very, very sad. But it was nice to reconnect
Oh, my word, I can't even
with the family.
imagine.
And we were very, very lucky to be
Absolutely.
liberated.
Blessed, yes.
Let me ask you this: when you were also picked up, was your head shaved? Was your mom's head shaved? Because I know that was another
Yeah.
issue, because it did not make it easy
To
to recognize each other. The
No.
captures to be
Plus, you've lost all the weight because of
you were thin,
starving.
starvation. I mean,
Can't even imagine.
I'm glad you brought that up. Earlier, we talked about how inmates in all camps did not have a tattoo on their underarm. It was only in Auschwitz-Birkenau. In Auschwitz-Birkenau and other extermination camps, they were all shaved. They were all given, I call them striped pajamas, uniform striped pajamas. And we were not shaved. We did not have to wear the striped pajamas. We wore our own clothes.
wow.
But most of the pictures you see are people in striped pajamas, and you see people with a...
Yes. It still doesn't diminish the
What
hurt and
you
the
went through.
pain.
Oh no! It's just a
Just-
different. It's
yes.
just a different way.
Right.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to bore you with too many numbers, but earlier we talked about my father passing away.
What was his name? I'm sorry.
Axel, A-X-E-L. Thank you.
Axel.
That's my middle name after him.
That's why it says Sam.
That's right. You got it, Luz. Very good. And in camp, there were 140,000 that passed through camp. Of the 140,000, 40,000 died of starvation or illnesses like typhus. Another, and we haven't talked about that, another 90,000, 90 out of 140,000 were deported in cattle cars to extermination camps like Treblinka or like Auschwitz. My mother never told me about those deportation, and I was not aware of it during the camp. She was trying to protect her son and as much as she could.
Right.
And I would play soccer. We had a gravel field we played on, didn't have a real soccer ball. The mothers took some old clothes and tied it together, and we would kick it around. The ball didn't last for very long. And I had made good friends with some Czech children. We tried to bond as well as we could. And one day the Czech children didn't show up. And I told my mother about it, and she said, I'm sure they'll be back in a couple of days. Maybe they're ill. And she knew exactly what had happened to those poor children.
She
but
didn't want to
she
share
didn't
that
want to
with
share
you.
it with me.
Oh, what a
And they ended up in extermination camps like Auschwitz, along with about 90,000.
Well, based on the numbers that I have heard of, from the 6 million, 1.5 million were children
That is
were
right.
exterminated.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, and it's truly unfortunate, but although this genocide, this mass murder took place where it took millions of people, this has not stopped. How do you feel when you see what has happened in our world, whether it be in 1994 in Uganda, whether it be now even with ISIS? What does that tell you?
I feel absolutely terrible. We haven't learned. We had a terrible Holocaust, genocide, Second World War. Right now, it's going on. Syria, it happened in the old Yugoslavia some years ago. It happened in Cambodia, happened in Africa.
Even the Orlando shootings that just took place.
Yes,
I mean, it was
yeah.
because someone was chosen, a class.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I feel so bad that we haven't learned. And I'm often asked, how can we prevent these things from happening? And of course, my first answer is, if I knew how we could prevent it, I would tell the world. I don't think
Love,
anybody
to
knows
love
how to.
each and every person,
Yeah.
no matter what color, shape, and size, religion. Just love each other, because we are all human beings. We all have a pulsating heart, and we all have children, we all have parents, we all have family members, and just envision any person that you feel not so happy towards as being one of your family members, because we are all blood. And just
Oh,
love.
I couldn't agree with you more. But I also talk about education. And in the real estate business, they talk about location, location, location. I think education
Thank
is
you.
very, very important.
Yes.
And I thank you both for helping me educate all
my
the
God.
people that are watching.
The honor is truly ours. I was so touched, moved, and inspired
Yes,
by you,
yes.
by your story, by everything that you shared, and I'm so grateful to have you here.
Eternally grateful.
Absolutely, to have
And you're
you
welcome
here.
anytime.
Anytime.
thank you.
Anytime you
Yes.
feel it's time to get back on TV, come and do
Okay.
You call me.
Thank you both.
You call me. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Okay, take care.
Blessings, blessings. Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.